I'm going to show you a little technique you can use to save yourself a lot of time and work when doing forestry and chainsaw work. Actually, on YouTube, we're supposed to use words like hack. We're not supposed to use normal people words like a method or a technique. It has to be a hack, otherwise the YouTube gods will get very angry with us. Before I start showing you this hack, I'll very quickly show you what we're doing here. We just put in this new road and I'm cleaning up along both sides of the road, cleaning up some of the trees that came down during the construction of the road, thinning out some of the trees and brush alongside the road to make a nice clean strip on both sides. Now that we've set the stage, we can get into the technique, the hack. You know what? I'm just going to say technique. If the YouTube gods want to smite me down for that, I'm wearing an aluminum hard hat. I think that should offer pretty good protection from their smiters. In a previous video, I started working on this spot, which I'm doing in the more labor-intensive, slower way to do it. I yarded out all the firewood. I'm going to come back and pile and burn all this slash. Maybe 30, 40 feet away, I'm going to start using another technique that can cover a whole lot more ground in a lot less time and still do a good job of cleaning things up. I'm going to go down there, start cutting. You can see what I'm doing. I'll probably speed the video up to about 20x so you don't have to sit there for 10, 15 minutes just watching some guy run a chainsaw. You'll be able to sit there for about a half a minute watching some guy run a chainsaw. When I'm done, I'll show you what I'm doing. After that, I'm going to introduce a concept that a lot of people are probably not going to like. It's going to trigger their trigger. Not a new concept, but a concept that a lot of people might think is being something bad that can actually be something good. This is what we call lop and scatter. This can be very physically demanding if you don't take frequent breaks, but it can get a lot of work done in a hurry, even in normal speed. What I learned today is it can be very hard to do this kind of work and try to make a good video at the same time in the same day all by myself. Trying to talk on camera in between does not sufficiently fill the role of taking frequent breaks. So I apologize ahead of time for the way a lot of this video turned out. In editing, I found some parts where I'm not even sure what I'm even trying to say, and I'm the one who said it. Hopefully you'll be able to make sense out of what I say better than I was able to make sense out of what I was able to say. Oh boy, looks like I'm still having a hard time trying to say what I was trying to say. According to the time on the camera, it took me about 12 minutes to completely complete this whole area. This spot here is done. It might not look done, but we'll get into that more and I'll show you how it is done. Versus up here where I'm going to pile and burn, I already did the work of cutting all the limbs off, cutting them into smaller pieces. Now I'm going to have to wait for everything here to dry out, then come back, build fires, pick up every piece, put it on the fire. There are a lot more pieces here than it looks like. It's going to be a lot of work, which is okay. I don't mind doing that. I actually enjoy doing that. But it's going to take a lot more time to cover the same amount of area doing this that way versus what I just did down there. Plus all the time it's going to take yarding out the firewood logs, cutting them up into firewood, then dealing with the firewood. Which is okay. I will continue doing some of this in some areas, but it's a lot more efficient doing it the other way. All the slash and woody debris are still here. We didn't make it go away, but we made it so it will go away fairly quickly all by itself. It takes some practice to learn how to do this efficiently, but if you notice, all of this material is really close to the ground. Since it's close to the ground and covering the ground, it'll hold in moisture, which is good for holding in moisture for the soil, but it also helps it rot very quickly. This does have the ability to very easily carry a wildfire, but it's so low to the ground, flame height is not going to be very high. It's more likely to support beneficial ground fire. As the needles fall off and the fine material quickly rots away, that fire carrying ability will fade with it. The nutrients that are in this material will gradually go back into the soil. Maybe best of all, nobody had to reach down, pick up every piece, carry it over and put it on a fire. All of this work is just chainsaw work. You go over it with the chainsaw once and it's done. It's finished. It's completed. Nothing else I have to do here. It's in the bag. It is, what other words are there for finished? We don't have to do anything else to this. it's done. Whereas up here with this more conventional technique, there are more stages to do. There's going to be a lot more physical movements to do to get this job done. With this method, we're not targeting each branch individually. We're slicing through multiple branches at the same time, getting them to lay flat. We're not worrying about how flush or pretty we make each cut. We're just trying to get things to lay down close to the ground. For this kind of work, I recommend a longer bar so you don't have to bend over. For me, a 24 is minimum. I like a 32, a 28 would be good too. I got this smaller saw, this 400, for doing this kind of work. The smaller, lighter saw with a 24-inch bar. A lot of times I would like to have more reach, but this is a good combination for this kind of work. I can't imagine trying to do this East Coast style. I mean, that would be, you'd be bent over the whole time. That would be really tiring. That wouldn't work. Now for that concept I said I was going to mention that might ruffle a few feathers. I can imagine some people might not be happy that I'm going to be leaving these logs here to rot instead of utilizing them. If you're unhappy about that, feel free to let us know in the comments how unhappy you are about that. Ignore the stuff on the other side of the log. I haven't treated that yet. Douglas fir makes really good firewood, especially for a softwood. But by the time I'm done with all the projects I want to do this year, I'm going to have more firewood than I know what to do with. I can give some of it to my mom, but she can only burn so much. I could cut it up and sell it, but firewood is so cheap in this area, it's not worth it for me to cut it up and sell it. This log is too crooked to put on the sawmill. Firewood is about all I would be able to get out of it. If I was over at my coast property, where firewood prices are high in that area, it might make more sense to cut it into firewood, but here, no. I have to consider my opportunity cost. How much time is it going to take me to cut up these logs that I really don't need when I could spend that time doing something more valuable? I could take that time, do more of this lopping and thinning, and do more for the forest than I would by taking out these logs that I just don't need. I think a lot of people have the idea if you cut down a tree or a tree falls down, you need to utilize as much of that tree as you can. If it's profitable to do so, if you really need that wood, that makes sense. But if it's not profitable or you don't need the wood, why are you doing it? Are you doing it for a good reason, or is it just some compulsion you have to not want to waste wood? It took me a long time to realize a lot of times when I am trying to utilize wood out in the forest, it's not because I have a good reason to do it, it's just because I have a compulsion to not want to waste wood. But it's not really going to waste. When a tree falls in the forest, does nature take the wood out of the forest, try to utilize it for something else? No, the tree falls in the forest, lays on the ground like this, becomes food and habitat for wildlife. The nutrients in the log eventually makes its way into the soil so other trees can use it. This is more natural than trying to utilize wood. It's good to leave a certain amount of woody material in the forest. To take all this material out of the forest is very unnatural. Many generations of organisms will be living in and eating this wood, contributing to the food chain over time. Not only am I saving myself a whole lot of time and work, this maple tree has been cramping my style here ever since I got here. I should cut this thing down. What was I saying? Not only am I saving myself a whole lot of time and work, I'm actually doing better things for the forest by leaving these here. Keep in mind, I'm talking about my situation where I'm in a part of the world where one of the biggest problems, maybe the biggest problem with our forests is we have too many overstocked trees, too much wood. If you're cutting down good, healthy trees that don't need to be cut down just because you want the wood, in that case, I would say try to utilize all the wood you can. That way you might be less likely to go cut down another tree that doesn't need to be cut down just because you want the wood. Or if you're a homeowner, you have a small wood lot, you have a limited amount of wood, you enjoy going out, cleaning up things really nice, you're trying to clean things up around your home. In that case, you might want to pick up every bit of wood, utilize every bit of wood. If you're getting enjoyment out of doing that, that has value in itself. I get that. That's different than being out in the woods just trying to get the job done. Right around your home, right up next to structures, you probably don't want to use this technique. You'd probably want to do a full cleanup. The right strategy for the right, no, I wasn't going to say hack. The right thing for the right thing. Let's go down and clean up the next stretch. One of the reasons this is a good technique for this spot, we're under this big leaf maple tree, which drops these big leaves, which is why they call it a big leaf maple. In the fall, the leaves will fall down on this slash, which will partly bury it. That will hold in moisture, help that slash rot away very quickly. The time stamp on the video said it took me about 2 minutes to lop all this slash up. Maybe another minute or two to drag the slash over there. This madrone I am going to cut into firewood. It's right next to the road. Madrone makes superior firewood. The cedar, I like having some cedar. It's good for getting fires started. It's right next to the road, easy pickings. I do want to clean everything up right next to the road. This is the stuff I'll cut into firewood. The stuff out there is the stuff I'm just going to leave, let it rot. I'll cut those into firewood another day. There's still a little bit of slash here, a couple, 2 or 3 or 4 armloads of it. When I get these logs out of the way, I can spend another minute or two carrying that over the bank, lop it up, maybe 3 minutes. With the time it's going to take to finish this little bit of slash, which might not be 3 minutes, combined with the time it took to do all that other slash, 5-6 minutes. And that was a worst case scenario because I'm going to have to haul this over there. I think it would take a lot more time to build a fire here, pile and burn all the slash, than it took to lop and scatter, even considering I hauled all the slash over there to lop and scatter it. Because of the carrying and dragging, that wasn't a typical lop and scatter. Let's go down here, do some more typical lop and scatter. I just found something in here you don't want to find when you're doing this kind of work. An old cable. This is the kind of thing you don't want to find with your chainsaw, unless you really like your chainsaw going dull all of a sudden. Fortunately, I saw this one before the chainsaw had a chance to find it. I got lucky this time. In this spot, I did lop and scatter all the way up to the road. Have a couple feet of cleared spot here. A lot of this was the top of that pine tree that was supposed to go the wrong way, but it ended up going the right way, which made the right way the wrong way instead of the wrong way being the right way. Before that landed here, there were already a lot of trees that came down in here, a big concentration of slash that had been accumulating over the years. For me to build a fire here, pile and burn all that slash, it would have taken over an hour probably. But by lopping and scattering it all at once, maybe 10 minutes. Before this landed here, this here was like this over here. It was covered in Oregon grape. This variety makes a nice evergreen, low-growing ground cover. It grew up through the slash. I can still see bits of it that got mashed down by the slash. It will continue growing up through this. It will shade all of this. We're right next to the creek where this is a cooler, wetter climate in here. It's shady. It won't be long before all of this rots down to a point where it's not a fire hazard. As I'm showing you what I'm doing and explaining the reasoning for the different techniques for the different sites, I know those techniques are site specific. What I'm doing here is not going to apply to a lot of other things other people might be doing. The idea is not so much to show you the techniques and say, these are the techniques you should use, these are the best techniques to use. I'm more so trying to show you the thought process I go through to come up with each technique for each different site. Sometimes learning the technique is not as important as learning the thought process to come up with the techniques. It's like if you give a person a technique, they will have a technique for the day to use that technique. Teach them the thought process to come up with the techniques, they will have techniques for whatever they need to do. That didn't come out sounding as profound as it sounded like, or it seemed, I thought it was going to sound like it was going to come out. Oh well. Sometimes learning the techniques is not as important as learning the thought process to come up with the techniques. It's like if you give a person a technique, they will have a technique for the day that'll work in certain situations. But if you teach them the thought process to come up with techniques, they can have techniques for a lifetime that they can use for whatever comes along. The good news is I treated all the way from where you are, all the way down here. I'm down here, way down here, this whole section, except I didn't do this little part to the right of you that I'm going to burn. If I wasn't flapping my jaw on camera, I probably would have been able to do this in about a half hour, if that. If I was piling and burning, it would have taken hours and hours and hours and hours. Cleaning up this whole stretch of road is now finished. There's nothing else I need to do in here. If I was to start and not stop, get in a groove, I might even be able to do that in 20 minutes. Of course, we have to exclude this spot that Jeremy cleared with his excavator, but most of that is not this spot. Let's go down to the next spot, see if we can find a quick and easy way to deal with that spot. Down here we have all this material Jeremy piled down here with the excavator. A lot of fir limbs and debris that came from the upper side of the road. The problem with this is a lot of it's mixed in with the dirt. It has a lot of dirty spots. Here I'm going to use a well-known technique commonly used by people in many areas of life. It's called ignore the situation, maybe it'll go away on its own. Very effective technique when you don't want to actually accomplish anything. Except in this case, it actually will be effective. All that material that is in soil contact will rot very quickly, especially along the creek in this shady spot. This is really not much of a fire hazard. It's kind of ugly, but it's far enough away from the road you can't really see it very well. If I knock this one thing down, that'll be a big help for the view. There, perfect. I do want to come in here, thin out these trees, but I don't know when that's going to happen. Until that happens, we'll just leave this the way it is. A distance down the road, we have this little mess. It would be a bit of a time commitment to come down here, build a fire, burn all this up. If I was going to wait until I had time to do that, there's a good chance this just isn't going to get cleaned up. It'll be left the way it is. But if I come down here right now, spend a couple minutes lopping this up, it might not be as pretty or as ideal as if it was burned, but at least it'll be done. This does still visibly stick out because of the contrast between the fresh green and everything else. But as we get some warmer weather, the needles will all dry up. Everything will just become the same color as everything else. It will become less visible. In the spring, greenery will start growing up through it. The needles will fall off. It's just going to fade into everything else. If I eventually get tired of looking at these stumps every time I drive by, I could come in here with a tractor, pick them up, dump them somewhere else. But what are the chances I am going to prioritize that and actually do that? My prediction, those stumps are going to be there for a very long time. Now we'll go down to the next spot. Down here is a pretty good concentration of slash. I had the idea I would come down here and burn it because there's so much of it, but I decided to use another technique we haven't done today that should make quick work of this. I'll start doing a little cutting on this, then I'll show you what it is. This is a technique we call, if you find a big hole somewhere, throw things in it, they'll be gone. See, if you just throw things into a big hole, they'll be gone. This thing I did here doesn't really fit into the rest of the video on being a technique that will save you a lot of work, because that was a lot of work. Throwing things into a hole so they go away is actually a lot of work. I think it's as much work as if I would have thrown it into a into a fire and burned it. Only difference is this way I don't have to build a fire. It might have been easier to burn it. I could have built the fire right on top of the biggest concentration of slash, let the fire burn it right there instead of me having to move it. But I was on a roll. I wanted to get this done, so I just did it. Now, thanks to lop and scatter, I have most of the mess we made when we built the road all cleaned up, except for that small part up there where we started that I'm going to burn. Eventually I want to thin out the trees and brush a good 50 feet on both sides, in some places more. I was originally picturing piling and burning do a really clean job, but now that I've conceded to the idea, I'll probably just do lop and scatter. It should go fairly quickly. Maybe I will do it this year.